You're listening to the GRCC Provost podcast.
Greetings, persons of quality. I've never met anyone who doesn't like butterflies. I've met lots of people who don't like other kinds of insects, or, to use the technical term for spider, other kinds of arachnids. But I've never met anyone who doesn't think a butterfly is beautiful. And today, I have with me an expert in those beautiful creatures, Matt Douglas, professor of biology at GRCC, who is going to talk about his special interest in monarch butterflies, and in particular, the results of his sabbatical to do further research on monarch butterflies. So Matt, to begin with, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you came to GRCC, how long you've been here, what all you do here.
I teach zoology here, and I teach anatomy and physiology. My path here was from the University of Kansas, and then...
Rock, chalk, Jayhawk.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the best. My first job was at California State University in entomology, where I did have to learn about arachnids that were attacking, economically important plants in the Golden Valley. And then I went to Boston University, where I taught in the medical school there. I taught at Harvard in the summers. I taught zoology there. And then I came back here as a single father, and I was lucky enough to get a job at GRCC, where I then taught zoology and introductory biology and that sort of thing.
How did you come to the monarch butterfly as your research interest, your primary research interest?
My brother and I, when we were maybe 4 and 6, collected butterflies with bags attached to nets. That didn't work very well, so my mother made us nets. And we were always fascinated by monarch butterflies because they would come up in May or June, and then they would disappear in August. So that was something that piqued our interest for a very long time. And then when I got to the University of Kansas to do my doctorate, there were several people there who worked with butterflies, and one in particular, Chip Taylor, who now runs Monarch Watch, which is a huge national organization for tracking monarch butterflies, became my advisor. But he was waylaid, and he started studying the Africanized bee. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a bee that threatened to invade the southern states and kill everybody. Never happened, but he wanted me to go to Suriname to study, these bees. And I said, no, Chip, I think I'm going to study butterflies here in Kansas. So that's what I did. And I studied Monarch Migration. And this was back in, I hate to say this, I think it was back in 1979. So it was a long time ago.
Tell us about some of the unique qualities of monarchs. Why are people so fascinated? Because they're a unique kind of butterfly.
They're very unique. They're very tough. The scales on most butterflies rub off very quickly, but on monarchs, they're very tough. They don't rub off. They can stand rainstorms. They can stand snow. They can't overwinter as adults. So the Great Migration that we have up here really originates in Mexico, just on the west side of Mexico City, where they overwinter for 6 months at least. And then they start migrating north, and they're very unusual because they lay thousands of eggs, but very few of them actually get through because they have fire ants down there, and they have bugs, true bugs, which kill them.
Icky bugs.
Icky bugs that actually do kill them.
Term.
Right. And they finally get back up here to reestablish their populations. And so actually Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota are the breadbasket for monarch butterflies that all go to the south. It used to be almost 1 billion of them. So just thinking that these butterflies have never seen Mexico before, but they will go there unerringly, is a huge biological mystery. How do they find a spot as big as Grand Rapids Community College on the map and stay there every year so faithfully that they built up huge, gringo tourism down there just for us? So all those things are fascinating. Plus, they taste terrible. So if you tend to eat them, they're supposed to taste a little bit like battery acid for the most part. And a lot of birds can't eat them, and a number of reptiles can't eat them. And the ones that have specialized on eating them know how to take the body fat out of them, and just the body fat. So in Mexico, when you go there, there are tens of millions of monarch butterflies in one tree. And there may be acres of these things. Underneath, there's dead butterflies everywhere. You just can't imagine that. And then the noise that they make when they come out with a bright sunny day is something you'll never forget. It's just this whooshing sound that you hear everywhere. And they're landing on you. You're just surrounded. It's like mosquitoes in a mosquito horde, but they're monarch butterflies. So they're tough. They're weird. They've migrated all the way to Australia, and the same monarch that is from California is the one from Australia. So they've populated areas as far, west as that, and they've populated east places like in Europe. They've flown over to Europe and established populations there. So they're a crazy butterfly.
But their sort of home base is near Mexico City.
Yes, where they evolved, we think, is between Mexico City and Haiti. And then there's there's a South American monarch the one that I investigated in my sabbatical. Those are found in Bolivia and partly Brazil, Chile, and then down into northwest Argentina on south towards Tierra del Fuego. So the interest there is that they fly exactly the same way to their overwintering roost, but they're flying towards the South Pole. Our monarchs are flying to the equator or close to it. So the question is, do they actually fly that way? Where do they rest? Where do they roost? And nobody knows yet. So it's crazy. They look just like ours, but they apparently diverged from this monarch that was the base of all monarchs about 2 million years ago. They're just a crazy butterfly. You can't possibly be bored.
Well, I'm concerned that there are creatures that would eat them.
There
are
creatures.
These those horrible arachnids? Are they
Those
eating
arachnids are not my favorites, actually, because they do eat the larvae. And neither are true bugs, which you mentioned, because they put their little beak into my little larvae and they suck them dry.
All right.
So no, they're not my favorites.
No. Please tell me people aren't eating butterflies.
Actually, they don't usually. But there was this guy from the University of Iowa, I think, that gave his guests monarch butterfly bodies, and they didn't have much of a reaction to them. So they thought they were probably safe for humans. But I haven't heard from that guy in 30-some years, so who knows what happened.
Who knows? Yeah.
It's
All
sad.
right. Well, I don't even want to
Yeah, go ahead.
contemplate that. It's too horrible. So you went on your sabbatical journeying through South America.
Yes.
Not unlike, say, Ferdinand Magellan.
Kind of like that.
And you even went down toward Tierra del Fuego.
Correct.
Land of Fire.
Right.
Which is where Straits of Magellan.
Yes.
I mean, it's
We didn't get quite that far, but close.
Okay, so tell me where you went and what you were looking for.
All right, so we went to Ecuador first because in Ecuador there's a subspecies of monarch that's from North America that does not migrate. However, I found out that it does migrate through the mountains, which means it goes up to the cooler regions during the hot season. Now, Ecuador is on the equator pretty much, so there isn't a lot of variation in photo period there or time or anything. But I got there at the vernal equinox when equal day is equal night, and so everybody was out there partying for that. I thought that was crazy, but that's what they do.
But you were there studying.
Yes, I was there studying monarchs in the what they call a Yungas forest up there. And so I saw a number of them just in non-migratory form. And then went to Chile and then across to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, really, and then across to this island in the Atlantic where the last really good intact rainforest exists for the tropical Atlantic rainforest. I didn't see any monarchs there. So apparently they either been extirpated or they were never there in the first place. But people have told me that they were there, so maybe just a bad season. So then we went over to the very tip of Argentina, which kind of sticks up into the belly of Brazil at Iguazu Falls. And Iguazu Falls is one of the biggest falls in the world. It's just unbelievable. And we saw monarchs there flying through and apparently a migrating form. So just to the south and west of where they were is, Bolivia is just north of that. And then just to the south and west of that would be Argentina. So I continued on to Argentina in what they call Salta and Tucumán. It's northwest. It's just on the other side of the Andes. And we saw plenty of monarchs there. Some were migrating, some were not. Some were in larval stages, like first instar caterpillars, tiny caterpillars, and other big caterpillars. So it looks like they have a very mixed population. And I think I saw the oldest monarch I've ever seen there. It was totally white, an old female, and she was migrating through. So on the northwest side of Argentina, they have canyons. It's just a beautiful country, no infrastructure. So the Yungas forest, like in Ecuador, is just at the base of the mountains, but you can't get in there. It is like Africa. You have to bushwhack with a machete to get through there. So the small roads that I could actually take didn't get me very far. But there were lots of monarchs there, either just nectarine, and some were flying through. We think the ones that were flying through were from northwest Argentina, Iguazu Falls, and also Bolivia coming through. So the story is not completely known at all.
Monarch butterflies turn gray like people?
This one particular female lost a lot of her scales, and their pigments eventually fade in the sun. Okay. So I knew she was old when she landed on this lantana plant, and I thought, I couldn't get a permit to collect anything. So I had to try to take a picture. I tried to actually catch it with my hat, which was illegal. So it was an illegal four-way.
Noah will want that extirpated.
No, we want that extirpated
from the
right.
podcast so that if Matt ever wants to go back to Argentina,
right.
they'll let him in.
Right.
Okay. As a monarch expert, did you know sort of where to go when you're in the Yungas forest? Did you know where the monarchs would be, or did you hire local guides, or were there local scientists that you knew? I mean, how did you find them?
I had some local scientists that I was given the names of up here from people at Western Michigan University. And so I used some of them, and it was difficult to locate them because, as you probably know, they can change their routes from year to year. And at that time, it was so foggy in the Yungas, you couldn't see. It was the densest fog I've ever seen. In fact, the hotel that I stayed in, I didn't realize that the addition that they've been putting on had been burnt down, apparently last summer. So when I woke up, I looked at this building and I thought, oh my God, I had no idea that there was another attachment to this hotel that was totally destroyed because I couldn't see it in the fog. So the butterflies don't fly too much, but the next day they were out all over the place on these huge, tall sunflower-like plants, and they grew up 15 feet. They were huge plants. And they also had a plant there called Eupatorium. We have it here in Michigan, in Grand Rapids. I don't know what species it was, but they were all over these plants. So I saw a lot of them. Not all migratory, though. And some brand new, some really old. So the story is not very well known down there.
What amount of, say, research has been done on South American monarchs?
Virtually nothing, which is really amazing because not only does it look like ours, not only did it spring from the same basal or species that the others came from, but it migrates. And you would think people would be clamoring to get down there to figure out, how does this migrate? After all, everybody who studied the migration in North America that they went to Mexico is famous. So I thought, there's got to be a little ego here, right? If you study these things and you find out where they're roosting, that is big news, right? So I don't know. I think people are afraid to travel. I think that's what it is. When you go to these areas, you're kind of bushwhacking through everything. And, it can be dangerous. Not from people, so to speak, but just because you can get bit by a snake or something, whatever.
So how far south do you think the monarchs go? Would you speculate? I'm
going to speculate. I think they follow, if you look at Argentina, you'll see little cities called Salta and Tucumán and Cafayate. They're kind of lined up. And I think it would be just to the west of that are the Andes Mountains, which are huge. And in that somewhat subtropical forest is the Yungas. Somewhere in there, they are roosting. I always thought you could do an ultralight, right? And fly over the Yungas. Seriously, you could fly over the Yungas with an ultralight when they're supposed to be migrating through, which happened to be April and May, their fall down there. And if you spotted them, if you had an infrared thing, you could probably pick them up. And I thought, why hasn't anybody done that? Wouldn't it be awesome? So that's my next grant proposal.
Oh, IIPD committee, there's a little foreshadowing.
Yes. That's what
we want to see ultralight rental on the form.
And lots of insurance.
Lots of insurance. Right. Monarchs have been found in Hawaii, in Europe.
Yep.
Is that sort of the scope of their
dispersal?
Yeah, dispersal.
Yeah, dispersal. Well, they've gone to Fiji, they've gone everywhere, and wherever you can find milkweeds, which were reestablished during World War II in part in some of those places, they have pretty decent populations. So in Australia and New Zealand, they actually do migrate a bit along the coast or to the coast.
Okay.
So that migratory set of genes is built into our monarch. It's also in the South American monarch. There's one other monarch in Haiti that hasn't been studied at all. But however, we have a former student here, Matt Artema, who is down there right now studying that particular monarch. He will have dibs on this one last clue here. He's going to do genetic research on it. And then he's coming back here in August to talk at our Michigan Entomological Society meeting down at Pierce Cedar Creek Institute. So it's kind of weird how that all turned out.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, because he kind of liked beetles more than butterflies. I said, no, don't do the beetles.
I don't even understand that.
I
It's
don't
beyond
either.
my fathoming. Is he in graduate school somewhere?
He went to Princeton. He had a full ride from...
That's somewhere.
Yeah, full ride. And then he's at the Museum of Natural History.
Natural History Museum?
And he's got a guy who supports everything he does.
Wow.
The former CEO.
And he's our former student, huh?
He's your former student.
He's your former
My
student.
former student, yes.
Okay, yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So
Well, I think he's done all right.
I think he's done just fine. He doesn't have any tuition bills or anything because every time he went somewhere, he got it paid for him.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So he's going to specialize in the Haiti monarch.
Yeah, the Haitian monarch, yeah.
So your next venture is the ultralight in the Youngest Forest.
I wish I was young enough to do that, but I'm probably going to try to find out where monarchs oviposit here in Michigan on the return migration from Mexico, because nobody knows anything about that either. Tomorrow we're going to Lansing. We're working on monarch habitat restoration and wild pollinator in the state of Michigan. So I'm on that committee to help reestablish, but we just found out that a lot of the foraging plants that they are available in August are now senescing or kind of dying off too early because of climate change. Monarchs, I found them at the John Ball Zoo in November 10th. So that's way unusual. That usually does not happen. They should be long gone by the end of, say, October at the very latest. But these were larvae, caterpillars, and they were in great shape, and so was the milkweed. But they don't have any foraging plants to feed on, to take nectar from. So I think that's working against them. So we have a lot of stuff to do.
There is no limit to what can still be studied on these monarchs.
You could spend the rest of your life studying just egg parasites, which some people probably do.
No, I couldn't, but one could. Yes, all right. So Michigan Entomological Society, those are bug people.
Those are definitely bug people from Michigan State
Would there
University.
be arachnid people there?
There are arachnid people, but I don't talk to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, don't invite me to that.
No, I won't invite you to that.
Because I'm not coming.
Right.
What is probably the biggest learning you had from your sabbatical?
Every time I travel, I realize that, first of all, people are people everywhere you go. That if you speak a little bit of Spanish or Portuguese, doors open like crazy. And I mean like crazy. They will help you out. They will give you the history. They're so proud of themselves and everything. And if you get into the backwoods there and you talk to people who are just normal people like farmers, they will give you the shirt off your back. And so I love that part of it, but I also love the part where I say, have you seen this butterfly? And you can show them the butterfly and go, oh, yeah, I'll show you where. They grab you by the hand. This has happened to me in Africa, everywhere I've gone. They take me by the hand and they pull me and they show me where they can find it. So I think that's the best thing is that, they see normal, somewhat normal, I guess I'm normal, people there to visit them and not cause them great harm. I think that's pretty good.
Is the research that you did on this sabbatical, are you sharing it at conferences, publishing it anywhere? How are you disseminating? Because I don't want to shock you. I don't know that the other Monarch scientists are listening to the Provost podcast.
Oh, I don't know either, but I am. I have a series of 10 papers I just lined up, and I'm finishing up one of them. So yes, there will be a lot of papers coming out. And these go back 30 years in some cases.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I am delighted to hear that you had such a wonderful
It was
sabbatical. Great. I have two more quick questions.
Yeah.
Can we do two more quick questions? What is it that I didn't ask you that you wish I had asked you about monarchs or your sabbatical?
I think you did a really good job, actually, of being a
non-monarch literate person.
I think you set the stage with the arachnid insect dichotomy.
I try to gain a little bit of credibility with my guests.
But honestly, all I could tell you is that any life stage you choose of monarchs, there's like a book about it. You couldn't put enough of that stuff into an encyclopedia. There's so many papers now. And they're so interesting because the evolution of monarchs is so crazy. This is a butterfly that is going nuts right now, establishing new areas. It's under siege here in North America because maybe we have corn that's too close to the milkweeds that is poisoning it, in some way or another. But it's not known for sure. We know we have to beef up habitat always. The monarch migration is really low. I won't know what it's going to be like until they come back this summer. Mm-hmm. So you can't be bored, like I said.
What would you say to a faculty member who is on the fence about whether or not to apply for a sabbatical?
I would say definitely apply for at least a semester, if not two. And it may be true that you take a little dip in income. However, you will be so refreshed when you get back and so in tune with teaching again. It really, sabbatical itself tells you, take a rest, right? Mm-hmm. Recoup your brain and reorganize your life, and that's exactly what I did. And I'm very happy I took it. So I would highly recommend that other people apply and just have some passion that you want to do. Mm-hmm. And I think, you're on your way.
Okay, now I don't want you to feel a lot of pressure. You are a zoologist.
Yes.
And so you probably have the most expertise of anybody who has ever been on the Provost podcast to answer this question.
Uh-oh.
There's a lot of pressure, I know.
Okay.
Cat or dog, which is the superior animal?
Okay, I'm going to stick my neck out here and say cats, especially if they're Maine Coon cats, because I have them sitting on my desk every morning watching me write, and they're very faithful. They act like dogs, but they use the litter box. And I don't have to be woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go outside in the winter, and they talk. They have a little talk, and they get angry, and they talk more. It's fun.
No more eloquent tribute to the cat has been given on the Provost podcast. Yes, I just want to say you're right.
Yes.
The cat is the superior animal.
We're going to get letters.
And Maine Coon cats are awesome.
They are.
I don't have one, but I would because they're awesome.
They are. And they have very distinct personalities.
They're very distinctive, very intelligent animals.
Very intelligent.
Much more intelligent than a dog.
I'm not going there, but.
All right. What are your cats' names?
We have one that's called Chi-Chi and the other one is called Chew. So Chewy means tiger in Swahili. That was by accident.
Okay.
And Chi-Chi is from a Mexican tribe called Chichimeca. Mm-hmm. So her short name is Chi-Chi.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
This has been the most edifying, one of the most edifying Provost podcasts ever.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
All righty. I'm so excited. The cat is the superior animal. You heard it from a zoologist. So to all, and finally, lest we forget, to all my colleagues at GRCC, both cat people and dog people, please remember that I'm proud of the work that you do. You are the highly esteemed, much appreciated faculty and staff of a very happy provost. Boom.
You've been listening to the GRCC Provost Podcast, produced by GRCC Media Technologies. Join us next episode for more Provost.